Democratic Senator Chris Coons out of the hearing for a moment here and says that he would like Lev Parnas to testify in this impeachment trial. White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley says the president has every right to replace the people in his administration, and he is getting in front of a microphone. He was there as well and has been with the president this afternoon as well, so we'll hear from him. But first, Senator Coons, who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, good to see you this evening.
Great to be back with you, Martha.
We have not heard this tape yet, so there are some characterizations of what's on the tape and what isn't on the tape, but the truth is that nobody really knows at this point. But given what you've heard so far, what do you think about it?
Well, it's striking that Lev Parnas is someone who none of us had heard of even a few weeks ago. As the House was developing the evidence that the House managers have been presenting to us here in the Senate over the last 2 days, they didn't have access to Lev Parnas as a potential witness. We've only heard of him because he was fleeing the country and was arrested and indicted in doing so. He was a close associate of Rudy Giuliani's. And I'll remind you, one of the most troubling aspects of the House manager's case, which has been laid out in great detail, is that President Trump inserted his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, in the conduct of a shadow foreign policy that included things like a smear campaign against Ambassador Marie Jovanovic, a long-serving, decorated, independent Foreign Service officer who had been an anti-corruption crusader as ambassador in several different countries under several different American presidents.
Well, let me ask you this. You heard what the president just said. He does have the right to remove anyone he wants from ambassadorships. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
He does have that power, but not for a corrupt purpose. And one of the things the House managers laid out in great detail, I was surprised, really, at how much testimonial evidence they had from senior administration officials, folks from the National Security Council, folks who are current and former ambassadors, about the whole scheme that was put together by Rudy Giuliani and carried out by President Trump.
But let me ask you this, because no, it's fine.
If President Trump really hopes to be exonerated here in the Senate, he needs to present countervailing evidence. He needs to present witnesses.
But I'm just trying to figure out, I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to figure out what the evidence is of exactly. Because we hear also the president brings up this Ambassador Jovanovic on the call that was released, on the transcript call, and says, I hear she's bad news, something like that. It lines up with what is supposedly on this recording, and I should point out that, no, we haven't heard the recording, so it's hard to characterize it, but that she wasn't supportive of the president. She wasn't lining up with, his policies and what he wanted to pursue with regard to Ukraine. So there's nothing there that would be evidence that would indicate that would indicate that. What's the evidence is my question of wrongdoing, I guess.
Can I talk now?
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Martha. The core case that's been presented by the House managers is that President Trump put his own personal political interests ahead of our national interest, and that he directed the firing of Ambassador Jovanovic, and he put a hold on badly needed military aid to our strategic partner, Ukraine, who continues to face Russian aggression in the east, because he was trying to extract from the newly elected president of Ukraine a commitment to open a sham investigation on Joe Biden and to announce an investigation into the 2016 election. So the core issue here is, what was President Trump's motive in ordering the dismissal of Marie Jovanovic as ambassador? What was his motive in putting a hold on this badly needed military aid to Ukraine, hundreds of millions of dollars, which had strong bipartisan support? The key witnesses that we are hoping to hear at the end of these first 2 weeks of the trial are folks in senior levels of the administration, at OMB, the president's acting chief of staff, who carried out President Trump's orders to place an unjustified hold on this badly needed aid.
Okay.
If Republicans want to exonerate the president, those are exactly the sorts of relevant witnesses we should be hearing from.
Well, I think, and as you point out, the polls show that people are interested in hearing from these witnesses. So I guess my question, and you make, a number of assumptions, I should just point out, that haven't, necessarily been established in terms of whether or what the president's motives were. I think if it was so clear, this would be an open and shut case, but it isn't. It's still open. So let me ask you this. In terms of these witnesses that you want to hear from, what do you recommend? Do you think that it should move back back to the House? Because that's been an idea that has been floated, whether or not they should go back and continue, given these new pieces of information that are coming out. What do you recommend? What course?
Well, Martha, that's one possibility, is that the House could continue to develop information. But the rules that were adopted by the Republican majority when we began allow for depositions of potential witnesses. Those could be going on right now. Those would be going on in a closed session. The president could assert whatever privileges or immunities that he wanted to challenge or strike certain aspects of that testimony. The Chief Justice would be making those rulings about relevancy, and then another week from now or so, that additional testimony or evidentiary evidence could be presented in front of the Senate. It doesn't need to hold this up for weeks and weeks. We really already have in place a process that could allow this to happen fairly quickly.
All right. Senator Coons, thank you. Always good to talk to you, sir.
Martha.
You bet.